Well, good evening, OCPS families. My name is Victoria Tierney. I'm the Senior Administrator for Parent and Family Engagement for Orange County Public Schools. We are so excited that you have joined us today. I understand we have some schools that are participating in a watch party, so we definitely want to welcome all of our OCPS families, whether you are at a school or whether you are joining us from your phone or your home. It is my great pleasure to introduce Taranisha Young, who is joining us today, who will be presenting mental health resources for students with disabilities. Taranisha, this is actually, I think, a really pertinent and valuable piece of information for us to be sharing with parents right now. We're going into testing season, so I know that it can raise stress for a lot of our students, and so we definitely, I think it's good timing for this information.
Absolutely, and it's relevant year round. So you're absolutely right about that. My name is Taranisha Young, and I am the Senior Administrator of VSC Parent Outreach and Instructional Support for Mild to Moderate Disabilities. And as the title shares for you all, I'm going to be sharing some resources with you about mental health for students with disabilities, but really a lot of this information can be used for any students, yourselves as caregivers, parents, or guardians. So I'm excited to just share some of this information with you all. So we'll go ahead and get started. So again, as I just shared, my name is Taranisha Young. This is my contact information on the screen that you see now. So feel free to jot down my email. If you ever have questions or concerns related to special education or your child, feel free to reach out and I will best support you with any of those questions or concerns. So as we work through this presentation together, please feel free to ask questions that are related to the presented topic that are good for the group. If you have student-specific questions, please use the QR code, the link or the button on the main page of the ESC website to submit your questions or concerns. And then from there, someone from our parent outreach team, which is also the team that I work with, will reach out to you as soon as possible to make sure that your concerns are addressed. And you can find that link in the chat. So let's get going with our community builder. As you guys continue to kind of trickle in and join our meeting, please take a look at the items on the screen and type your answers in the chat box. To access the chat box, look for the icon that looks similar to a speech bubble. After you write your responses, feel free to scroll through and read the responses of any of your peers, and feel free to ask questions or comment on the post of peers as they share their responses. So you're going to reflect on your role as a caregiver. This role comes with many joys and challenges, as I'm sure you all know. You're going to choose one word to describe how you are currently feeling. Again, feel free to interact with your peers as you guys are sharing those words, and we'll come back together in just a moment to kind of share and reflect on those. And if you are at one of our lovely watch parties, feel free to drop in some of the words that are shared from families that are sitting in front of you.
I know we've got families from Riverside, we've got families from Silver Pines, we've got Pinewood. We definitely, a Pinewood parent did share with us, Taranisha, that he actually feels good.
Excellent. See
And
that
then
Molly
someone
Ray
said
is
they're at a
here.
number two. Someone from Riverside, I believe. Molly Ray is here as well. Awesome.
Like Jim.
Lake Jim
Oh,
family.
welcome
So let
guys.
us know. Yes, you're here. Please participate.
And I am actually here presenting from Meadowbrook, and they are also doing a family watch party. So
So Tiffany, who's the Pell, is saying that she is hoping we can get everybody to a 1.
that would be fantastic, Tiffany. All right. So I did see a few responses in the chat. I saw good. I saw excited. I can actually read between the lines with some of them, hoping we can get to that number one of happy, relaxed as it relates to mental health, again, for ourselves as caregivers and also for our students and children. So thank you again for sharing. Being a caregiver of a child with a disability can come with many experiences that may impact your mental health or that of your child. It is important to not only routinely take a pulse of your own mental well-being, but also your child's. As a mother myself with a son with a disability, I have made this a practice in our home. This helps me to identify when I may need additional support or when my son's needs may have changed and require new ways to intervene. Before we dive into things, I'm going to share a video of Natasha's story dealing with mental health challenges.
Okay. Are you able to see it?
I used to run a rock music show at my local radio station, mainly stuff from the 80s. I've been to a lot of rock concerts. Think of probably any 80s rock band and I've probably seen them. I live with this physical condition called cerebral palsy. I was very, very, very self-aware from a young age that I was different, that I looked different, that I moved different, that my body felt different to everyone else. I really wanted to be just like everyone else. I wanted to be the so-called normal. It was particularly hard to deal with in high school. Seeing everybody go through puberty and wanting to start going on dates with people. And I completely felt the same way. I would have crushes on people and ask them to be in a relationship, and the answer was always no. I felt like it was almost my disability that got in the way of everything. I never felt like beautiful or attractive or anything like that. I never saw anybody on TV or in a magazine that even looked like me. It's always really felt like this is the only thing that people see. They're almost scared to touch you. They're scared to put an arm on your shoulder or give you a hug or hold your hand or do anything like that. Sometimes I get really anxious when I'm talking to people. I often have all these thoughts going through my head like, am I blinking enough? Am I staring at them? Do they think I'm staring at them? You know, what are they thinking about what I'm saying? They probably think I'm stupid. They probably think what I'm saying is stupid. And I try to challenge all these stereotypes that people have. Usually, to get around, I'm on 2 walking sticks. And I can't put weight through my hand at the moment because of the fracture, and that's why I'm in the chair. How I sort of got into headspace was I was feeling really, really anxious about something, and I thought, I want to talk to somebody who's going to listen. And I thought, oh, you know, I'll just Google them and see if they have any of this online counselling stuff. And I did, eHeadspace. I find I'm able to express so many more of my thoughts by writing stuff down. Using that meant that I could talk to someone whenever I wanted. I've just started my Masters of Social Work at Melbourne Uni. As a future social worker, I'm really passionate about seeing the whole person. The more that I move into this field, the more I feel like I'm being accepted for who I am and not what I am or what I have. People keep calling me an activist, but I don't really see myself as an activist, I feel that's too political. What I prefer to call it is subtle activism. Like, I go to like a lot of bars and nightclubs, and I'm pretty much the only person with a disability. Something I've been trying to work towards is owning that idea that I am different and that's okay. I think I have a really strong desire to prove myself. I can be quite in people's face sometimes, and I can be quite controversial sometimes. No matter how different you look, we're really just all the same. People with disabilities are just people, and that's something I really like everyone to sort of think about.
So growing up and living with a disability, as you can see through Natasha's story, can definitely be tough in our society. And sometimes this can negatively impact the mental health of students or individuals um, with disabilities. Natasha shared her story of growing up with cerebral palsy and how this affected her mental health and how she was able to get help through virtual or online counseling. This is only one example and one way to cope with mental health challenges. Good mental health and well-being allows you to live your life in a positive and meaningful way and cope with life's challenges and the changes. Let's explore some other resources and ways that students with disabilities can cope with mental health challenges that may arise. So our agenda for this evening, we are going to go over some facts about disabilities and mental health, some things that you may or may not already know. We're going to review the OCPS resiliency and mental health framework. We're also going to review some internal resources for mental health, as well as some external resources for mental health. So did you know, when a child has both a developmental disability and a mental health condition, these are called co-occurring disorders. Research tells us that kids with an intellectual disability often have a higher rate of depression, and that kids diagnosed with cerebral palsy struggle with anxiety, such as Natasha from our video that we recently watched. Other stats show that kids with specific learning disabilities overall have higher rates of mental health challenges than their non-disabled peers. When it comes to autism, close to 78% of children with autism have at least one mental health condition, with mood and anxiety disorders being most prevalent. Kids diagnosed with ADHD are also up to 3 times more likely to have an anxiety disorder and 5 times more likely to have depression than kids who don't have ADHD. While the statistics are enough to overwhelm any parent, including myself, there are also many resources to help us support our kids as they navigate their emotions and the struggles of being a kid in general. From creating positive coping strategies to modeling healthy behavior and emotional regulation and more, I'm going to share various resources with you today that will support you in your endeavors. So as a parent, you know your child better than anyone. So you will likely be the first to notice any changes in mood, temperament, or behavior in your child. There can be a wide array of signs and symptoms that may indicate concerns for mental health conditions. However, one of the most important things to be aware of as a parent is that noticing a change in how your child functions and interacts with the world on a daily basis can be a major warning sign. Some signs you can look for include the signs and behaviors on your screen. So things such as isolation from friends and family, changes in appetite, changes in sleep, changes with friendships, changes in grades that are not typical, changes in their mood, increased irritability, loss of interest in activities that they previously enjoyed, and avoidance of things, people, or activities. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. These are just some of the more common indicators or signs that we look for when we're identifying that we may have mental health challenges or issues that our children are dealing with. So now we're going to look at some of the mental health resources that we have right in house here with OCPS. So if you're already aware of mental health challenges with your child or suspecting that your child may be experiencing them, it's important to understand the resources that are available to you and your child. Effectively supporting the mental health of our students takes a collaborative tiered approach. Prevention is key, with positive school climate and opportunities for positive relationships and school connections forming the necessary foundation for students to thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. This framework features examples of interventions at each tier for mental health. And again, these are things that are all in-house that we offer within OCPS. So again, if you're looking at the tier 1 level, those are things that all students receive. We have our staff that are trained with resiliency, mental health first aid. They also have access to a resiliency toolkit where there's plenty of resources for students to kind of view videos or dig through some of the pamphlets and information. And that's typically where we're not seeing major warning signs or indicators that there are things that we need to intervene on for students. Looking at our tier 2, schools offer small group counseling. They can do brief student check-ins if necessary, and small group resiliency and life skills training for students that are demonstrating a need. When we get to tier 3, we begin to looking at more individualized interventions for a student, meeting them right where they are. So things like individual camp counseling. You might have had a counselor offer you a SEDNet referral form where someone will come into the school or your home to work with your student. Threat management, individual life skills or training. So again, these are all things that are offered in-house, many of which are school-based, and you can work with your school-based mental health designee, which is oftentimes a school-based counselor or SAFE coordinator that can support your child. The mental health designee will work collaboratively with the student services team on each campus to put resources and interventions into place that support the mental and emotional health of all students. Parents and guardians who would like more information regarding mental health counseling or resources, again, should contact their school's mental health designee. And that can typically be done just by stopping by the front office, asking who that individual would be on your child's campus, and they can work through some of the additional steps to get access to resources or school-based interventions that are needed. I am going to drop a link in the chat that will take you to our OCPS mental services page, where you all will have the opportunity to explore some of these resources and interventions more in depth based on your needs. Again, this page is filled with resources and tools that can support you and your child. And so I'm actually going to take a moment to highlight not all of them because there are so many, and a lot of them become very specific to the needs of the student. But I am going to take a moment to highlight 2 that are pretty general that will cover the basis of quite a few resources for varying families. So the first one is OCPS Community Connect. This site has been created to link families with needed existing local resources. So if you ever need to locate resources, you can search for free or reduced cost programs such as food, housing, again, mental health. They also have education programs and other social services provided directly by community-based organizations, many of which we partner with as Orange County Public Schools. I am also going to drop the direct link to this particular resource in the chat. I actually spent some time playing around with it myself as I was creating this presentation because it has developed so much over the years. I was actually able to find some things that I'm interested in, some support groups for not even just my son, but for myself as a caregiver. And so basically you would type in your zip code once you arrive to the site. Although they provide services for things beyond mental health and wellness, if you are looking specifically for mental health and wellness, you would click on that particular tab, and then counseling or whatever the intervention is or resources that you're looking for. And if you're looking specifically for yourself or your child with disabilities, there is a filter where you can filter the resources down to resources that are specific to supporting individuals or students with disabilities. And that was something that was huge for me. Again, I've played with it in the past. I didn't know that it filtered down quite as much, but you are able to find a plethora of ideas and groups that you are able to work with. I see a question in the chat. It says, can you tell us more about the support group later? Absolutely. When we get to the end, and to be honest, I haven't joined it yet. I located it while I was on the site, and there's more than one. So I really encourage parents to take a moment, dig through the site, because there's some that target siblings of individuals with disabilities. I know in my home, my son's older brother sometimes struggles with the challenges that come with that. And so he needs individual or specialized support. There are caregiver support groups. There are support groups for kids and students. So there's a plethora of support groups out there. Again, I have not yet joined, but they also provide a description regarding the type of support group and the type of services that are provided.
And also, Taranisha, my understanding is that because there's such a wide variety, they're spread out pretty nicely throughout the district. So, that's the other thing to look at is what are the support groups that are closer to your area that might be already in your neighborhood or within your community that you wouldn't have to be able to go too far for the services. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and that's an excellent point. When I played around in this kit, as you will, when you have the opportunity, I typed in my zip code, and so it provided me resources that were within a certain range from my home, and so that would work for me, but it possibly would not work for someone who maybe lives on the east side of Orlando. So that's an excellent point, Victoria. It's the resources are widespread across Orange County. And so you really want to go in and personalize those filters to your needs, your geographic location, because they're going to provide you with things that are more convenient for you and that are very targeted to the supports that you need. Excellent point, Victoria. Thank you. The next one that I want to share with you all is OCPS supports. OCPS provides students and families with multiple supports at both the school and district level through the OCPS supports ticket. Needs related to our McKinney-Vento program or our homeless education, special education and ESE services, psychological and social services, and once again, mental health services can be addressed through this ticket. This team that responds to the mental health tickets is comprised of social workers, school psychologists, mental health counselors, and mental health support specialists. They're highly trained to improve the quality of life and well-being of our students, families, and school staff by providing a broad range of services, including prevention strategies or interventions such as counseling, consultation, for those that are experiencing ranges of mental health issues. They also can provide referrals for long-term services and additional supports in the community. So if at any point you find that you need additional services, even through the Community Connect, you're struggling with navigating it, you can complete the support ticket and a staff member will get back in touch with you in 1 to 2 business days. We are focusing on mental health in this presentation, but you'll notice if you visit that ticket, and I'm dropping that link in the chat as well for you all, you are able to actually click on some options for additional services. So there's one actually specific to special education. So if you had questions or concerns that are not mental health related, you could also click for some things there as well. So this is a really cool spot because you can ask for help for many areas that you may need it for yourself or your child.
And Taranisha, Kim was sharing that Nathaniel's Hope is an organization, a community support for kids and families that she has found is just amazing. So I just want to say thank you, Kim, a shout out for sharing. If you find anything, a resource that works for you and your family, please don't hesitate to plop that into the chat because like Taranisha said at the beginning, this is an opportunity for us to be able to learn from each other and to be able to share any resources that are helpful. So I did want to make sure we acknowledge that. I have heard really good things about Nathaniel's Hope.
Yes, definitely an excellent organization. We actually partner with them every year in the spring for their big celebration, typically at Lake Eola. So you'll hear more about that as it comes closer. But definitely a phenomenal organization. They provide tons of different types of supports. So yes, thank you, Kim, for sharing that because they've been fantastic. My kid is still a VIP kid through their organization. He gets all sorts of goodies in the mail and again, tips on ways that I can support him even at home. So definitely a fantastic program. So now we're going to explore some external resources that you can access to support your child's mental health needs. And again, we're not going to dive deep into each of these resources just because, again, everyone's needs are very different. I really want to provide you with more of an overview of where you can find things or names of organizations that you can kind of dig into yourself to see if it's a good fit for you. Because again, our needs are all different and some services or supports work for one and they may not for the next. So again, I'm going to share several resources as we continue through this presentation, but I'd like to highlight NAMI. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for the millions of Americans affected by mental illness. NAMI works to educate, support, advocate, listen, and lead to improve the lives of people with mental illness and their loved ones. Let's take a look at one of NAMI's many educational videos to learn more. No video. We actually can no longer hear you either. I apologize, everyone. Technical difficulties, but we're working through them. While Victoria is pulling up our video, I'm actually going to drop the link in the chat to.
5 U.S. adults experience mental illness.
We can hear it, but we can't see it.
Ages 6 to 7.
Taranisha, I'm trying to get to where it is just to make sure we have it.
No worries.
Let's see if this will do it this time. Can you see and hear it yet?
I joined NAMI because I have two sons that live with a mental illness, and I didn't want any other families to feel alone like I did.
At NAMI, the first thing we want anyone to know is you are not alone in your mental health journey.
I just really want to talk about so people know that you don't have to go through it alone.
NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization, dedicated to building better lives for the millions of Americans affected by mental illness. We started as two moms, gathered around a kitchen table in 1979. And today, we are an alliance of more than 600 local affiliates and 48 state organizations who work in your community to raise awareness, build advocacy, and provide support and education. NAMI envisions a world where all people affected by mental illness live healthy, fulfilling lives supported by a community that cares. Every year we are expanding, no matter race, religion, age, or sexual identity. We are people with lived experience, families and loved ones, survivors and advocates, and together, We will fight the stigma surrounding mental health and create a better world for the sake of all of us. We have resources for you and can't wait to become an extension of your family. We're here for a healthier world. We are here for better mental health. We are here for each other. Join us.
Each year, 1 in 5 U.S. adults.
Nope. Perfect. All right, so NAMI is actually another one of my favorite organizations. And even outside of the work that they do, where they actually come out or you physically engage with the organization, their website, it will suck you in. I mean, the number of resources and videos that are there, from cultural to support to resources for kids, adults with disabilities. If you are struggling as a caregiver, dealing with some of the difficulties that come with mental health issues, there are videos and resources galore. There were a few questions in the chat as this came on about the cost of these resources. They are all, for the most, everything that I've shown you tonight are free of charge. The same with Nathaniel's Hope. Someone went back to that one. Totally free of charge. That was one that I think I registered for my son years ago, and not once have they ever asked me for a dime. They send him birthday treats and all sorts of things just to make him feel special, which we know those little things alone also impact a child's mental health, and he's extremely excited about it. You know, it's something that's just for him. So yes, absolutely free of charge, as well as the support that NAMI provides and many of the resources on OCPS support.
And Taranisha, I did drop the link to the NAMI homepage as well as the link to their helpline. If anyone wants to go ahead and take a look at that, I was really impressed when I clicked over just how informative and how many resources you can find. I could literally go down the rabbit hole for quite a while there, for sure.
I did. While creating this, I definitely went down the rabbit hole. Were you going to tell me about
I
the
was going to
question?
say, yep.
There was another question. It said, can OCPS support also help with finding therapy for children? Yes, there are options for therapy and counseling there, but your school mental health designee can also assist with that. Again, there are some options through SEDNet. There are some school-based options in regards to counseling, but they can also refer out or share options for different therapies that may even work alongside the school. So, but there are options for finding those things through OCPS Connect. So here are some additional external resources, and there are so many out there, I could not possibly share them all this evening. And so I went with some of my faves and some that I just felt really met the needs of students with disabilities specifically, as well as the targeted age groups that we serve within the district. So the very first one you'll see the logo for is Undivided. Their mission is to make every child with disabilities or developmental delays, provide them with ways to access the services and supports they need when they need them. Now, they're based out in California. However, the resources can be applied across the board. I often go there for support as it relates to, again, caregiver needs. There are also plenty of social stories that are shared for some of our younger students and children that are struggling with mental health issues or just disabilities in general, helping them understand the things that they encounter or face from a day-to-day basis. Another one is 988 Suicide and Crisis Prevention. This is Lifeline provides 24/7 free and confidential support for people in distress, prevention, and crisis resources for you or your loved ones, and also best practices for professionals in the United States. So at any given time, this line can be used if there is someone that is in distress and requires any sort of crisis intervention. Again, NAMI, which I just shared, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Again, they provide advocacy, education, support, and public awareness so that all individuals and families affected by mental illness can build better lives. The mobile crisis services. Again, if you live here in Orange County, which most of you, I believe, logged on or sitting in front of your pals definitely do, you can dial 211 on your phone. And if you need the mobile crisis services, they'll determine that. And then they provide trained counselors in your home at no cost. So they'll pretty much arrive within an hour or less and are available 24 hours a day, every day, if there is a crisis situation and someone needs to be there to intervene. SEDNet, which you heard me share before, and a lot of your school-based counselors, SAFE coordinators are very familiar with this program. It's a multi-agency network for students with emotional and behavioral disabilities, and it creates and facilitates a network of key stakeholders committed to assisting in the provision of quality systems of care for students with or at-risk emotional and behavioral challenges. So a lot of students are referred to SEDNet counseling within our schools if they demonstrate a need or have a desire for additional counseling services outside of this, what the school counselor or SAFE coordinators provide. The National Federation of Families is a national family-run organization which links more than 120 affiliates and partners focused on the issues of families whose children of any age, so across the spectrum, experience mental health and or substance use challenges during their lifetime. So again, they provide supports and resources from our younger students and children all the way up through the range, even post education ages. And then Mental Health America is the nation's leading national nonprofit dedicated to, again, promoting awareness with mental health, well-being, and condition prevention. So again, just another resource for families to dig into as it relates to mental health and supporting the needs of their children or themselves for that matter. So coping with the stressors and challenges of life is tough, especially when you're a kid. And with added complications, you also have a disability that can also pose its own challenges. Our kids face many unique stressors, from extra therapies at school to feeling misunderstood by friends or family, on top of the challenges of just being a kid in this world. Sometimes big emotions like sadness or anxiety can just be a part of their typical development phase, but they can also indicate a more serious problem. So, as parents, learning how to identify when our kids are struggling and knowing how to support them through uncomfortable emotions or during a mental health crisis is one of the most important ways we can support their well being and development and empower them to not only develop positive coping and self advocacy skills, but also to be kind to themselves and know when to ask for help. And that's huge for a lot of our students. A lot of them are struggling and they don't always know when to ask for help, how to ask for help. And many of the resources that I shared with you today have, again, social stories or videos to share our stories that may be similar to theirs, where they can relate, attach feelings, and possibly speak out a little bit more about their own challenges and difficulties.
And Taranisha, as you've been sharing, I have been dropping the links to all of these organizations, their homepages, to make sure that parents have that at least in our chat and they can go ahead and do some exploring if they need more specific help. Like you said, this is truly an overview, but we definitely want to make sure that we give you the opportunity to easily access these resources because there's so much more there. I mean, we could literally spend a session on each one of these organizations.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing in the chat where someone shared many of our nonverbal children have a challenging time expressing their emotions. And that's absolutely a valid point that was made there. And there's some tools and things that are available to assist with that. Through the tickets that I shared with you, actually, our team is able to provide resources, our assistive technology team. We have multiple individuals in-house that kind of specialize in that area. And so through those support tickets that I shared previously, if you have a parent that's specifically struggling with that, or even a school that needs more assistance with finding ways, and again, not one way works for every student, finding ways to help with that challenge, that is something that our department is able to do as well, because that is definitely a difficulty for our students who are not able to verbalize their emotions, finding other ways to still give them that outlet. So that is going to conclude the overview of resources. I truly appreciate you guys being such a great audience. We're going to take some time to answer some general questions that are good for the group. So if you have questions, feel free to place them in the chat.
Tiranisha, would you be able to go back to the slide that had the support ticket information just in case parents
Actually,
might
that's my
need that
next
again?
slide. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. So on your screen again, you will have another opportunity to either jot down the link or grab the QR code of the parent support ticket. If you still have specific concerns related to your child, whether it's mental health, I can get you in the hands of the right mental health designee at the district level, or anything ESD related, I can also assist there. But you can use this ticketing system to ask general questions. You can request resources to get additional support for your child. Because I know, especially me, a lot of times I'll sit through a presentation in that moment. You know, the questions don't come, but much later they may come about. So feel free at any given point to reach out. I'm dropping that link in again for you all. And then I see Thomas asking about the support ticket. Again, I just dropped the link for that. That is an in-house ticketing system that we have for families, community members, really anybody who needs it, where you can ask questions, share concerns that may be going on, where you need a little guidance on how to proceed. You can provide feedback. We've actually included an additional feedback form there. So if there are things that you'd like to see changed or things that we may not even realize are challenges or barriers for families, there's a way for you to communicate that through the ticket. And we'd love to hear from you all because that's the only way that we're able to progress and develop and really support your needs.
And I also went ahead and dropped the link to the YouTube Families channel, our for our OCPS parent engagement. The video, this is being recorded, and this will be uploaded within the next 24 to 48 hours. So if you are a parent and you feel like there was some information you need to revisit or you'd like to hear again, you can always go to the YouTube Families channel and be able to pull up the recording. We always post it within 48 hours of the actual session. So all of this information will be there.
Thank you so much, Ms. Beard. I'm excited that you'll be sharing. And if they have other questions, feel free to share, you know, those tickets and things like that so that they can reach out for more.
I also dropped a link in the chat for families. If you would take a minute and give us feedback using the link to the survey, that just helps us as we try to provide resources and services to our families. We want to hear from you, what works, any ideas you have. That's really important. I also want to do a shameless plug, if we can, Taranisha, for our very last in-person Parent Academy of this school year will be April 27th at Edgewater High School. I'm very excited. It is all about transitions. So if you have a child transitioning into elementary from preschool, or a rising fifth grader transitioning into middle, a rising eighth grader transitioning into high school, or possibly a high schooler who's transitioning either to college or just adulting, we have specific sessions for parents, and we're encouraging any of our rising fifth graders, eighth graders, or high schoolers to join their parents in a lot of the sessions to make sure they're getting that information as well. And I will also make sure to go ahead and I can drop the registration into the chat for that, because we do want to make sure that if you have the opportunity to join us, that you do. And then I am going to ask any of our families that are joining us from a watch party, if we can ask the Pels and Cells, please make sure you email me your sign-in sheets scan them and email them, because we want to make sure that all of our parents that joined us tonight are going to be represented, and we'll be able to get their email addresses. So that's going to be really important. And lastly, Taranisha, I have to extend to you a huge thank you. As you can see coming into the chat, our parents have really valued the time with you and valued the resources. So I always learn something when we get time together doing a virtual mini academy. So thank you so
Thank you
much.
for hosting. And a major, major shout out to Meadowbrook Middle School. I know we have a group here that's also doing a watch party, but they were also super gracious to allow me to use their space to host. I do see another question in regards to ABA therapy. That is something where the ticket would be extremely helpful. And then I can kind of talk you through some things that I've kind of learned in my personal journey, as well as some things that I've learned kind of working with other families. So I can help in regards to referring out and sharing some of the resources that we have for ABA therapy. We don't provide that in-house at all, but I do know of some organizations as well as locations that offer the services. So if you send the
Taranisha,
support
I
ticket, I will
really
help you.
appreciate that you always share your own personal journey with our families. And I think that makes such a difference when you know that the person who is sharing this information and who's sharing the resources with you has firsthand experience and really understands the journey. I know each journey is unique,
Mhm.
but there are some commonalities. So I do appreciate that you're always so generous with your own experience with our families.
Absolutely. It drives my motivation and my position every day because it truly is a journey. I learn so much from the parents that I work with each day, and I think we learn from each other. And so it's fabulous to have you all here. So I'm looking forward to that ticket, and I will definitely provide as much support as I can. And then just lastly, before we end tonight, I just placed some additional ways that you guys can remain engaged with the ESC department and what's going on. But again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is always a pleasure to work with each of you and support you. So again, thank you and have a fantastic evening.
We're going to bid everyone a good night. Again, thank you to all of the schools that took the time to bring families together. And a last big thank you to Taranisha for being here with us. Have a great night, everyone. We certainly appreciate you.